All right, what's good, y'all? Welcome to the channel. As you can see from the title, I just got fired from my job. And your main task in this is to just be a non biased opinion. And of course, you don't know me personally, you don't know the business for real. But I do have some screenshots that we'll look through, we'll read through them, and we'll make sure we're all on the same page so we can come to some sort of conclusion. And overall, I've been with this company 6.5, 7 months. Real funny, go with the meme if you want, but overall, I feel like I've been more than fair to the business. I've put my time, energy, attention into making sure that I do well while I'm there. And I definitely did more than I was supposed to, especially for the pay that I was getting. But the issue was, if I wanted to get paid more, I felt maybe I just have to do more. And I continued that literally the whole time I was there, doing more. And then just to preface all of this is a smaller business. So there's literally 4 employees and then the business owner. So the overall gist of the business is literally just to train dogs, but they also board and do daycare. So the moneymaker, of course, is training the dogs. And then what consistently pays the business was the boarding and daycare. So with boarding and daycare, of course, it's a lot cheaper than paying for a full training. So that's just what a lot of the clients ended up doing, whether they're going out of town or they just want the dog to be brushed up on a couple different things. Or maybe you just at work for the day and you literally just need somebody to watch over your baby. And my overall job in this place was a kennel tech. But of course, I was hired on to be a trainer. 6.5 months later, still not a trainer. So, of course, things are going to start to be asked, and we're going to try to figure out where are we, what are we doing, and what do I have to do. Mind you, while learning the process of the business and the pay structure and all of that stuff, so I could talk to the clients and be good on the phone, which I'm coming from selling cars, so talking to clients was no issue. And I do have 3 dogs myself, so handling dogs is not something that I'm learning for the first time. Also, before this dog job and before the dealership experience, I worked at another dog facility for 2 years where I was literally in the gates with 30 dogs just by myself, making sure that everything went well. Now, of course, both of these dog jobs have one thing in common: they like to underpay you and overwork you. And really, that's a system that goes through multiple businesses. Really, any business that can get over on you and pay you less to do more, they're going to do it every time. And honestly, it goes back to greed because everybody wants as much money as possible. Not a lot of people care about the energy that's going out, which is also one of the things that I noticed and critiqued while I was there. There's a thing called a turnover session. This is where you show the owner everything that the dog learned, and then you make sure that the owner is able to replicate that for their experience, their dog, when they go home. Now, I've witnessed multiple turnover sessions that were dog shit, no pun intended. And I even told the owner, if you saw some of these turnover sessions, you would be ashamed of the product that you're letting the customer leave with. But I literally was fighting an uphill battle. It's an all woman staff and owner. I was the only male, and I was the only one who was kind of getting done super dirty. And then also, when I first started working there, the owner also told me that she would pay me to do content, which I've done content the whole time I was there. And I had posts that did very well, got a lot of views, got a lot of attention, got a lot of comments, but that never turned into money for me. So it's pretty much free work that I'm just kind of handing out in hopes that she'll eventually scratch my back or like take care of me like she said she would do, which is literally why I started working there, because I did the interview while I was still at the dealership, making sure that everything was lined up and made sense. That way, when I transfer over, we got a plan and we're ready to go for it. We were both on board, or at least I thought when I first started. So, of course, I spent all the time going through the whole process, learning everything that they did, the whole pay structure, like I said, and the whole training protocol, which I ended up finding out is actually not, the best service you could possibly do. 10-minute trainings a day. And obviously, you want to keep it short, but you also want the dog to look prepared when they go home after the 7 days of training or the 11 days of training. The worst thing you could do is get a dog and send it back like 2% better than what it was. And a lot of the times, the owners who are going through this experience are like, they're peeping that something ain't right, but they're not necessarily confrontational, so they won't say anything. They just smile and leave. And most of the time, they don't even leave a review. But I feel like there's some tactics going on behind the scenes, and I never really got a fair shake. So let's get to the messages. Let's look over them, and we'll go from there. The image she sent over is from one of my Instagram accounts. I have like 7 Instagram accounts, 6 YouTube accounts. I have 3, 4, 5 TikToks. I don't remember. I have a bunch of accounts. I've been making content since I was 13. I'm now 28. So obviously, I have the experience to push content. I own my own businesses. I've made videos about it, and I was doing well in my own businesses. It just so happens, series of unfortunate events. It could happen to you at any time, and they took both businesses that I was really doing well with. So of course, I had to restart, which is why I went to sales, thinking, okay, I got to this point. I'll go into sales and I'll just make my money that way, and then we'll build up and we'll, get back to what I was doing. So she sent over the post. Now, mind you, I'm telling ChatGPT basically what the whole protocol was, what we worked on, how he did. And then ChatGPT is giving me back the prompt on what I should say that would be the best for the customers and people who might view it. So the post she sent over was posted 21 hours ago, aka it is fresh. And it says today Cyro worked on Come Sit Down and Stay. At just 7 months old, he stayed sharp and in sync throughout the session, while also starting to learn some more advanced techniques. He stayed very engaged the entire time and picked things up quickly. A little food reward helped reinforce the behaviors, but the energy of learning and working together kept him motivated. Which was certainly true because that dog just needed a strong leader who knew how to communicate. And then it has the pin, New Orleans. Yeah, shout out to that. I'm in NOLA. And then it says training with Ryan. And then it says DM me if your dog needs help with obedience, focus, or behavior training. And then, of course, hashtags dog training, New Orleans dogs, dog training, dog obedience, balanced dogs. So that's what ChatGPT gave me. That's what I used. That's what I put on a post. I really didn't think twice about it because I'm making $15 an hour at this job. I was told I was going to get paid a trainer's wage, which is double the income. I've been there 6.5 months. I know the job. She's telling me I don't know the job, but to her, seeing that image, she thought I was side hustling, stealing her clients, which I get it. That's bad optics. But when you need money, guess what? You're going to try to figure shit out. She said, "What is this?" And simply, I can't lie about it, of course. I just said, "Need to make money somehow. Do you want me to take it down?" Question mark. Which is very respectful. I'm not trying to steal clients from you. I, I see how it could go wrong. But also, I was promised certain things that never came through. So, of course, I'm going to start going rogue. And she said specifically, "Are you using my training dogs to promote your side business?" I'm literally just trying to see if somebody is willing to let me train a dog so I could get some money, pay the bills. So my response to that was, well, I thought I would be a trainer by now, and that's not necessarily the case. I have footage of me training dogs now, so just throwing it out there. I'm not stealing your clients. That's on my personal account. Which I get it. It's bad optics to be in that situation and doing that, but desperate times call for desperate measures, which doesn't justify what I did, but I'm just letting you know this is why. She said, since our last conversation about you being promoted to trainer, where I told you to ask for help from other trainers, you haven't, which is false. I've definitely been a part of everything they were doing, but it just so happens when you're a kennel tech and you're doing kennel tech work, like cleaning up after dogs, watching dogs in the yard with the dogs, making sure they don't fight, you can't be in 7 places at one time, let alone 2 places at one time. And a lot of the times they're taking the training dogs to other places that's not the facility. So of course, there's no one to ask. I'm there by myself, literally. Watching over the dogs, there by myself, cleaning up after everything, doing my part. And making content the whole way through while doing, all the workload of a kennel tech. But we'll get there. Then they conducted a mock turnover for you and you weren't knowledgeable. I can't promote you if you don't know the job. It makes zero sense for me as a business owner or dog training facility to allow an employee to use my client dogs to promote his training business. That's a total conflict and misleading to clients. She definitely has valid points. However, this mock turnover that she is referencing was her two minions, who are her head trainers, her only two trainers, and they sat on a sofa. They pulled out the e-collar, and the questions weren't even good. It was like weirdly asked questions, like questions people would ask if they had literally no insight. But she's also generalizing, so now I have to kind of low key generalize what I'm talking about. And somehow, some way, they end up telling the owner that I did a horrible job and I'm not ready, blah blah blah, yada yada. Yet they were asking me to train their dogs so they could leave work early and then have the job be done. So clearly they trusted me to train the dogs. They just feel like I wasn't equipped to talk to the clients, which I simply don't agree with. I used to sell vehicles. The most expensive vehicle I ever sold was $104,000. And of course, nobody's spending that kind of money unless they know exactly what's in their vehicle. So telling them about the vehicle is pretty much the same thing as telling them about their dog. Like, yo, look, if you do this and you give them a little bit of leash pressure while you're going up, boop, boop, you don't even have to talk to your dog, but a little leash pressure. And if you taught him what you're supposed to have taught him, the dog will sit. But a lot of times these trainers aren't teaching that kind of stuff. They're just relying on the e-collar because verbal and body language wasn't enough. There are rare cases where you do need to get an e-collar involved, but if a dog is fully in tune with you and, enjoying the experience, they don't really need all the outside stuff. Which is why I said I don't agree. I feel like you have only been hearing their side of the story. There's a reason they were asking me to train 2 or 3 dogs a day while they left to do other things, and I hope you didn't let them trick you into thinking it was only a few times. Because if she looked back through her whole Facebook account for the business, you'll see me training dogs for 3 weeks straight. Only. I was the only one. There might have been 1 or 2 videos pop up from them two who like are lazy. I've seen it. I've seen it. They're lazy. They do whack jobs. One of them was a little bit thorough, but she only did that with the little dogs because she was scared of the big dogs or just felt like she wasn't equipped for it. And I said, I was literally a trainer for you for 3 weeks until you found out and told them to stop. If I trained my own basic and puppy dogs, the turnovers would look way better than they do now. Some of them you would be ashamed of, which is facts. And I did want to record one, but I ended up, because I was off that day, I ended up sleeping a little bit past the turnover. I missed the turnover when I tried to look it up on the camera. So I missed out on that, but of course, that turnover was shit because I have people who were there who told me we saw it and it was shit. But right after that, I said I can take the post down, but that also pivots to content. If you don't want me to be a trainer, are you willing to pay me more to do content? If I stop, there would literally be no content. And what I'm doing is working, but when your followers see AI generated paragraphs, they stop reading. The people you want as clients want real authentic display of what your company does. Someone talking, a face. Clearly, I care about progressing your business, or I wouldn't do all I do. But just put yourself in my shoes. You said you would take care of me, but it feels like the goalpost keeps moving. Yet I took a pay cut to be here, which she knew that I was doing. And she reassured me she'll take care of me and make sure that I'm doing all right. And she said she's going to be nothing like the dealership. She knows the dealership was a bad experience. She doesn't want to be like that. But look where we are. But I did clarify, not a huge amount, but it's certainly noticeable. And I said, I feel I am a great service to your business and just trying to make it. But I understand if this isn't the best line of work for me, but I feel I have been more than fair through this whole partnership, which I have. I've given that company a lot of my time, energy, attention, and resources because a lot of the stuff I was doing was innovating and teaching everybody else how to do the certain things that they didn't know how to do, which is what they were supposed to do about the training stuff. But the issue was they didn't really know how to do that. That company has no training for new employees either. People come in and you kind of get left rogue. They'll explain briefly certain things, but then if you do something wrong, they capitalize on it. Even if you did 99 things right and then you do one thing wrong, they heighten the one thing you did wrong and make sure you hear about it, blah blah blah. I mean, really that just goes down to human psychology. And I really don't think that's out of the norm because that is normal for people to do. But again, in this scenario, and then she said, it's time for us to part ways. I've repeatedly asked you to get instructions from the trainers. You haven't. False. But it just so happens that when we're equal and they don't know much past me, let alone if they even know more than I know or do as good as I do. And then she also said, I'm constantly getting complaints from my other staff about you not cleaning, aka her 2 minions. It's the only people who talk shit about me because that's the only 2 people that were fearing I would take their position. Like it's very evident and obvious, but if you don't want to look there, of course you're not going to see it. Your chief responsibility as a kennel tech is to clean. Yesterday, clients were left on red. They were not left on red. I didn't see the messages because I'm doing other tasks and other stuff. But I do get that's not good. I should have responded to the text. But also, I was doing other shit. And then the icing on the cake, I can't believe that you have the success of my business in mind when you're starting your own dog training business. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. As of today, you no longer employed here. Number one, she don't wish me the best in my future success. That's just the cliche thing you throw out there when you don't know what else to say because if she really cared, she would have helped me get on path to literally make money with her business that is making money and underpaying the people who are doing the most. The trainers literally work 6 hour shifts, don't clean shit, don't do nothing. They literally train the dog 10 minutes each. And most of the time they only have 3 a day. 3 training sessions. Max, if you literally max it out, that's an hour of work, and then they just bullshit the rest of it. They'll edit down these whack ass videos and then put them out. Actually, they'll edit down these videos and they'll send them to the clients, but they don't even post them on social media. I guess because they don't want to have that out there. They feel like they just rushing it, and you know, you know how lazy people get when they start getting money. They start getting lazier until cutting corners no longer works, and then they have to do more, and then they start feeling a certain way. And I'm not going to shy away from this. That's why I said I just don't think you're seeing this clearly. If I'm doing kennel tech duties and they go on outings, what do you expect me to do? And I have asked and shadowed, and LMAO, not cleaning is a huge joke, full of shit. And I just did that because I literally can't pay my bills. And you at least have to give a 2 weeks, right? Question mark. Because she previously has told me twice she'll take care of me. I'll make sure you're doing all right, yada, yada, whatever, whatever. But of course, certain people operate certain ways. And I also threw this in there because this is what I know, and this is what you should address down the line. Just so you know, one of them talks horribly about every single dog that comes in the building, and the other doesn't give two shits about your business. I understand if this is the decision you decide to stand on, but you have done a horrible job in taking care of me. And then she says, "Where's the battery to the drone?" I said, "Let me guess, I lost it. And if you think I stole it, you clearly don't know me. Because I'm not at work today. I was off for the next 2 days." So she fired me on my day off, which is actually a great title. I got fired on my day off. Imagine that. And then she said, "Do you know where the battery is to the drone?" Question mark. That's her getting stern, which I really don't care. And then she said, "I got it." Great. I'm glad you got it because it had nothing to do with me. So overall, I mean, I really did too much for that business, especially for getting paid $15 an hour, which is literally worse than what McDonald's pays, worse than what Lowe's pays. And the owner is making bank, which not to be pocket watching, but she's scamming people on the training sessions that are shit. They don't do a great job. Some of the dogs they end up being able to convert and get them fully on board. But for the most part, they're doing a horrible disservice to the clients. And I'm supposed to be shadowing and learning from this, which is hard to do when what you're watching is not the best display of like what you should be doing. And then when she previously told me, probably a month into the business when I was working there, that she would pay me for content because I told her I have multiple accounts that I'm running. And I showed her one of them on Instagram, had 12K, had videos with 1 million views. Like I know how to get the views and make the content. And the only thing was figuring out how to use the knowledge that I've learned to promote the dogs instead of whatever else I was promoting. But it's essentially the same business model, the same structure, and the same principles. So overall, I was starting to get burnt out on that job. I felt like I was doing too much, underpaid. She kept moving the goalposts, making it where every time I reached this step, she changes to a new step. Because at first it was learn the basic obedience program and be really good at it. And then from there we could talk. I learned that. And then she's like, "All right, shadow a few turnover sessions, make sure you fully understand that part." Did that. And then she was like, "Okay, well, look, just keep asking them questions, make sure that you fully get that part, and we're going to give you a mock trial so you could see if it even makes sense for you to make that position." And then, of course, like I explained earlier, the whole process of them asking me the questions was like a shitty job. Y'all did me a disservice, literally doing me like that. And I already know the minions was not speaking highly of me. They only emphasized the things that went wrong, but they didn't talk about all the other shit that I was doing that was benefiting the business and them. Because everything I did, booking clients on the phone and signing them up, knowing that I'm signing them up for them to make all the money while I make hardly anything, and making all the content. I took a screenshot because the account started at 24 followers. I made probably 14 videos, and then now the account's at 220. And when I'm not there, they don't post on the account. The Facebook account, I got 17 scheduled videos through the rest of the month. Like I'm running this shit like a business is supposed to be ran. But she don't want to pay me that way because I'm just a kennel tech and I'm replaceable to her. Which is also why, if that's really how you feel, this is the best move anyway, because it was wasting my time. You feel like I'm wasting your time. So, okay, fair enough. But in my opinion, I was very fair in this partnership. I did my part, and I mean, really, y'all didn't really hold up y'all end of the bargain. You gave me false promises. You made sure that I came over to your side to help you out when you needed help, but when I needed help, you ain't there for me. So that's a one-sided relationship. And of course, I'm gonna be better for this. This is experience. This is gonna help me navigate people who are similar to you in my next endeavors. Because I'm gonna always own my own businesses. I'm gonna always do my own side hustles. And if you don't own your own stuff, people like this can take advantage of you. So that's the last thing I'm gonna allow, especially with all the experiences that I'm coming from and what I have accomplished. So overall, this is the first video to ever be like this on this channel, but I think this is really core to who I am and what I've done and why I'm even making content about martial arts and the mind, the body, the spirit, and all these different things. So overall, if you resonate with the video, if you have any insight, let me know in the comments. And I mean, we'll just chat down there. We'll see kind of what the verdict is. And I get it, y'all don't have the full scope of everything that took place, but everything for the most part is in the messages. And it just comes down to reading between the lines. I mean, feeling the energy, frequency, vibrations. You really can't stray too far from the core principles. And yeah, if you're not even on board with that type of philosophy, then it's fine. So hopefully y'all have a good rest of the day, rest of your week. Take care, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.